The Rim Fire was a notable fire in 2013, and a lot of people looked at that fire and went, well, that's kind of an anomaly. Then we had the King Fire and several other just mega fires. And again, people were kind of looking at, are those one-offs, or is this a big change? And for me, my personal experience, really it struck me in 2015 when I was on the Rocky Fire, and I was looking at a patch of vegetation that was burning. Fortunately, there were no homes, no threats. And, the energy that I saw coming off of that vegetation was far more energy than I've ever seen come off of that volume of fire. And it's the fuel loading, and then it's just how stressed the fuels are from the climate change, from the increase in fire season, from the drought. And then we had the Valley Fire, and watching the Valley Fire burn 60,000 acres in 6 hours, and just run through Middletown and into Napa. And then we had the Sobranos Fire in 2016, and that's a spot that they've had fires in that area where the Sobranos Fire occurred every 8 years, and that fire just completely exceeded what normally happens in that area. The Detweiler Fire, I'm going to mention here in a little bit, talking about history, but then we had the North Bay fires with the Tubbs, the Nuns, the Atlas Peak Fire, and so many other fires that have occurred. And the extreme fire behavior, and you compare it to previous fires like that. Then the Thomas Fire in LA, we have red flag conditions day after day after day in December. And then we all know about the Camp Fire and what it did, and the Kincaid Fire. We can go on and on about these lists. And I think it's the reason why I bring them up is because knowing our fire history is so very important. If you want to predict the future, especially in fire, you look at the past. And if it happened before in the past, it's going to happen again. And even with our so-called improved fire suppression capabilities, we're not doing as well as in suppressing those fires as we did in the past. I'll use the Detweiler Fire as one example. When we arrived there with the incident management team I'm assigned to, we were told this fire never jumps this road. Well, it jumped that road at 3 o'clock in the morning. Then we were told this fire never jumps the highway. It jumped the highway. It jumped the river they told us it never jumps. It jumped the ridge that they told us it never jumps. And then we had the Tubbs, and let's compare the Tubbs with the Hanley Fire in 1964. It burned almost the identical footprint that the 1964 Hanley Fire did. However, in 1964, it took 2.5 days to burn that footprint. In 2017, it took 6 hours to burn that footprint. So we're keeping kind of the fire's width the same. It's the length and intensity and how fast it does burn that way. So let's look at Marin Fire history. Like I said, if you want to predict the future, look at the past. 1923, Ignacio to Bolinas. Think about that. A fire that started in Ignacio burned all the way to Bolinas. And by the way, that was the same night that a fire that not a lot of people talk about was a predecessor to the Hanley Fire. Almost the same fire in 1923 occurred in 1964 and then occurred in 2017. Now look at the footprint of what is in from Ignacio to Bolinas between 1923 and now. What kind of damage are we going to see through there? The 1929 Mill Valley Fire, the 1945 Mill Fire, which is where Kent Lake and was burning into the Mount Tam watershed, and then the 1995 Vision Fire. If you take those fires and look at their footprints and know that those footprints are going to get filled so much faster and have so many more lives threatened.